Welcome to Ariel's Cosmic Corner. Okay, so this is going to be a beginner's tutorial on a Siril walkthrough on how to process your imaging from beginning to end, strictly using Siril. So you're going to go to Siril.org, and in there you're going to see there's a bunch of releases, and we're going to pick what we're working with. And for us, I'm working with Windows. So we're going to download Windows 64-bit version. And then what you're going to do is install that. So when you go to run your Siril download, we're going to double click on that. You're going to get a Windows pop-up in the beginning that says, hey, caution, Windows protect your PC. We're going to go to more info. This is okay. So we're going to run this anyways. When you hit run anyways, it'll start to install Siril where you want it. You're going to say yes here. And then for basically everything else, we're just going to hit the defaults. For us, English, okay. We're going to hit accept. We're going to hit next. Siril directory, which is fine. But for us, we're just going to leave everything as the defaults. Hit next. Create a shortcut. Hit next. And then we're going to install. So as you can see, it's pretty easy for the installation part of it. Once that's completed, then we'll get into the nuts and bolts. So once the installation is complete, it'll pop up this box here. And what we're going to do, if you want to launch it at the same time as you finish, you keep this box ticked. If not, you can untick it, and then there you go. So for us, we're going to tick it real quick, and we're going to hit finish. And now what it's going to do is actually open up Siril. So as it opens, this is just the normal dialog box that shows. That always opens when you begin, and then the next window is going to show your main screen. All right, there we go. So as you can see here, if this is the first time, please have a seat, take time to watch intro videos and stuff like that. You can also click on that to see it, or you can cancel. But for our case, we're going to cancel that. And now we're actually going to get into the nuts and bolts of this. As you can see, this is Siril 1.2.5. So once you install Siril, the next thing we want to do is grab another software program called starnet. And if you're not familiar with starnet, starnet is basically a software program that's going to remove stars from an image, and then you can process that image and then put the stars back into your image when you're completed. And it's a very, very cool tool. So we're going to install that as well and show you where that's going to go. And when you get to the starnet download page, what you want to do is scroll down. Don't worry about this top stuff here. We want to go to what is called the command line software. And what you want to do is go to your operating system that you're using and then download that one. And when you download that one, you're going to put that into your downloads folder. And then you're going to right click on this and extract all. And when you extract it, it then puts another extracted folder with everything that you have for starnet. And then what you can do is you can either use it here and remember this path, or you can copy this the whole folder here, and you can put that in, say, in your Windows directory under program files, wherever you want to put it, so you can take it away from your downloads folder, just to make it a little bit neater, cleaner, and that type of thing. And then you just have to remember where you save it, because we're going to use that target path when you go to Siril, and we'll show that next. All right, so once that is downloaded, we're then going to, in Siril, we're going to go to the hamburger symbol here, little icon, and we're going to go to Preferences. And in Preferences, under Miscellaneous, is where you're going to add the software location to starnet. And you can browse, and you just have to remember where you put in your starnet. So once you put it and remember the path directory, you're going to grab the starnet++.exe, and that's where you're going to save here to do your star removal. And then once you're done, you just hit apply, And now we have our starnet within the system. Now that we have everything installed within Siril and everything's set, now the next thing would be is to set our structure folders. I want to show you what that would look like. We're going to browse your folder system and go to where you captured your images. And then within there, you want your calibration frames and your lights to be set like this. And spelling is critical. So you want to make sure that everything's spelled the correct way. You got your biases, your darks, your flats, and your lights. And then remember the path on where that is. You can right click and copy that as well if you wanted to. So now that you have this set correctly, let's go back to Siril and I'll show you why we want these set correctly. All right, so now that we're back in Siril, what we want to do is set our working directory to where you have your images and your calibration frames. So we're going to hit this little house button here. As you can see, when I hover over it, this says this is your current working directory. And when I click on that, in our case, we already browsed to there, and I'll just show you this again. We're going to go, I have them under Pictures, Astro, Pleiades, and then here you can see the structure files. We have our lights, our darks, our flats, and our biases. So once you set that, and that's your working directory, we're going to click Open. Okay, so now the next thing we're going to do once we set our working directory is we're going to go under Scripts, OSC Processing, and when I click on this, this is where it's going to start to look for what I showed you earlier. It's going to look for that structure folders. Under Pleiades, it's going to look for biases, lights, darks, and flats. So if you don't have that structure correct, this will fail. But once we click on it, you're going to see everything's going to start to go. And it's already starting to stack. It's looking at all our directories, and it's going to process everything that we have here. Now, depending on your system, this may take a couple of minutes. So don't worry, just let the flow go. If anything fails, it'll show you in red that it failed, and it'll say like pretty much like what failed. Your biases was named incorrectly, your flats was named incorrectly, or anything of that nature, or your flats weren't there, your lights weren't there. Provided that everything is correct, everything's going to start flowing and everything's going to start stacking. And you can follow it as you go. And you can see we're on this tab called Console. The Console tab is basically everything that it's flowing. So as we go through, you can see it's starting to execute some commands according to your scripts. Now it's working on some darks. Here, now it's going to start doing some lights. And you just let it go and let it process. When this is processing, you'll notice down here at the bottom, under the command line, you got a little blue bar. This little blue bar indicates what's being processed and what the status is of where it's at in the progress. So here it's processing, and it's going back and forth between all the lights and everything like that, but it's processing. It's got a blue bar as your status. It's going across. So you can kind of watch that. So we're going to let that run, and then we'll connect in a couple minutes. Okay, so now that everything is stacked and completed, and it ran through the process of your script, you can see down here you got your total execution time. You got your blue bar status saying that this process has been completed. So now we want to check out our results. Our results are going to be in our open. When we click on this open button, it's going to be under our working directory, which is here. So we're going to click on open, and then you can see the results is right here. It also created another folder called process and masters. You don't have to worry about these two folders. We care about the end result folder or end result image. And it also has some seconds after it that lets you know how long that process took. If you actually take this, the calculator, and you take your number and divide it by 3,600, check this out. You can see how many hours that it took for your total imaging acquisition. So here, we're going to click on the results and hit open. At this point, the image that you just took that we open is in a linear state. It means there's no stretch, no processing, nothing's really added to it. Sometimes you'll see stars, depending on your image. Sometimes you'll just see all black. Just depends on what the image is and how, from what you're shooting. What we're going to do now is go down to the bottom here, where it's got some options here, and we're going to click on auto stretch. So what this does, it applies a stretch to our image just to give you a representation of what the actual image could look like. And again, this is not your final product. If you were to hit save up at the top, when you go back and look at your image, it'll still look like this because no real stretch has been applied. So we got to do a couple of things before we get to that point. What we're going to do is click on auto stretch, apply your little auto stretch on there. Then at this point, you're going to see we have a red channel, you got your green channel, blue channel, RGB channel. And from here, we're going to start to alter the actual image to start clearing it up and start processing. So what we're going to do next is that we're going to give it a crop. We're going to crop this because on the far ends, as you can see here, we have some artifacts going on just from movement of, the imaging and stuff like that. You will get that. So what we're going to do is just apply. And when you apply a crop, you basically just left click and then drag your mouse button down without letting go. And then once you're happy, you just let go. We right click here, right click, and you're going to hit the word crop. And what that's going to do is it's going to crop our image. So if we went to like a different channel here, you could see that our cropping was done fairly good. Okay. All right, so our next step here is going to be a background extraction. And what that's going to do for us is that it's going to remove the gradient from our image. So what we're going to do here is go to Image Processing, Background Extraction. This panel here, we're going to leave as the default. Samples per line basically means how many sample points do I want in one row. Here we have 20. The grid tolerance is how restrictive do we want the sample points to drop. Meaning, do we want them to drop on our object or not? So for example, if I hit generate, you could see some of them are right in the middle here and close to my object. The more restrictive I make it, by making it less, I'm going to hit generate again and watch the middle. Those are going to disappear over our object. And the lower your number goes, the more restrictive it will be on the sample points. And now what we're going to do here is show you like how you can drop some in by left clicking on your mouse. And you don't want to put these on any type of stars. You just want to put it on the background part, the black. And then anything that you want removed, you can right click on the sample point to remove it. You could double click close to the sample points. It'll remove multiple ones. And then you just want to make sure you go through your object here and make sure none is surrounding it and nothing is really hitting it, and you want it to be outside the lines. The next thing we're going to do, once you're happy with everything that you have, we're going to hit Compute Background. And the Compute Background is going to do exactly that. It's going to remove the gradient from your image and make everything nice and smooth. Once you're happy with what you have, all you have to do is click Apply. That one then will apply your background extraction to the image. And now you're ready for the next step. So the next step is going to be a color calibration to your image. bring out the colors that are supposed to be there. So in order to do that, we go to image processing, color calibration, photometric color calibration, and that brings up a window on the right here. This window here does have a search mechanism to where you can type in your item and it will check, different catalogs and bring them up according to what you type in here. Also, too, if you have a dedicated astrophotography camera and paired up with Nina, your right ascension and declination coordinates are already here. But again, if they're not, it will use the catalog, and then once you select which one you want, it'll populate it with the catalog's coordinates. And what we're trying to do here is plate solve the image to bring out that color. Two things to remember are your focal length. This is your telescope or lens. What that's going to be as far as millimeters, minus 336. I am using a Williams Optic 71 GT. Then the next thing would be your camera pixel size, minus 3.76. I know these two things are correct. So once you have everything in here, whether you're using the catalog or you already have your coordinates from your data, you're going to hit OK. And what that will do is basically run it according to the thing, plate solve it, and bring out the colors. If I move this over to the left, you can see that the reference is here, and it did do a photometric color calibration, and it succeeded. And then you can close out and just hit close. You can see here that it brought out the color. Now the next thing, sometimes when you bring out the color, since I have a dedicated astrophotography camera, sometimes it leaves a little green tint in your image. So what you do here is go to image processing, and we're going to remove the green noise. When that box pops up, we're just simply going to hit apply. Leave the defaults and just hit apply. You can see that changed our image just slightly, and now you can hit close. Once you applied your color calibration, now we're going to remove the stars. I like to remove the stars. Now again, if you didn't want to remove the stars, you actually could just leave it as is, go to a linear state, and then start doing the rest of the workflow. But I like to remove the stars from the image and then process the actual image and not the stars. So in order to do that, what we're going to do is leave it there, go to image processing, star processing. We're going to go to starnet removal. And when you use starnet, it requires a pre-stretch. Otherwise, if I click on this and go to linear, you can see that there's really nothing there. So in order for starnet, prereq is to have a little bit of a stretch. So what we're going to do here is just have it apply a pre-stretch to our linear image, and then we're going to execute. When we execute this, it's going to start taking away all the stars, and then we're going to have an image that's going to be starless. So this does take a while, especially on my computer. So I'll be back with you once this is completed. As you can see, starnet completed. It removed all our stars from our image. Now we got a starless type image. We are still in an auto stretch mode. So in order to apply a real stretch, we're going to go to linear. So down here at the bottom, linear. You can see that it has a little bit of a pre-stretch there, but not much because starnet required that. But we're going to then go and start to do our stretch. All right, so in order to do our stretch, what we want to do is go to image processing. Also to make sure you're still in your linear state. Image processing. Right here is the @ sign transformation. What you want to do here is do your stretch factor. So what you want to try to do is bring out some of that nebulosity here and your deep space eyes. You just want to see a little bit. You don't want to go too overboard and stuff like that. You just want to start to have it peak. Then once you're happy with that, you're going to hit apply. Now we're going to go to our histogram transformation. And in here, you can see with the clippings, we're going to say stretch her out, and then there you go. With that, if you like this right here isn't a bad stretch, but we are clipping some of our data. So you kind of like want to move this just a little bit to the left, just the first one. First one is going to be our first arrow here is for our shadows. So what you want to do is just move this over just a hair, just so that your clipping here, your percentage is either 0 or under 0.1. And as long as it's under 0.1, everything else looks to me like it's good. And again, you can move this a little bit, lighten it up because it's your midtones. And then the more you move it to your right, the darker it'll get. So again, it just depends on how you want to do your modifications here. And if you're happy with it, which I'm pretty happy with that one. Again, you can make it a little bit darker maybe. And then you're going to hit apply. When you hit apply, all you have to do is hit close. And now you have a stretched image. Here, what I like to do is just go to color saturation. And then in here, I don't really mess with much of the settings here because again, this is just the beginners. And you just want to move this just a hair, or again, to your desired, some people can move it all the way over. You can see how bright it gets on the colors. 50 is usually pretty decent. It's not horrible, but it's pretty good. I like to do it around there. Just to bring out some of that color. And then once you're happy again, also too, one thing I didn't mention is that you do have a preview button here that if you wanted to, you could see the before and you can see the after. If you're happy, you just hit apply. And now with that, I'm pretty happy. So at this point, you have the option to, you can save it as is, and then we'll bring back in our stars. Or for more advanced, what you could do is go to this little drop-down icon, and you can save this actually as a TIFF file, bring it into Photoshop or some sort of editing software, modify it some more to bring out some more, whatever you want to bring out, alter, modify, edit, and then save it back as a TIFF, and then bring it back into here, and then reopen it. And you can actually resave it as a fit file within Siril, and then you would re-add your stars. So with all that being said, what we're going to do is basically we like our stretch, and we like our star list. We're just going to hit save, and it's going to say, do you want it to replace yours? Yes. And we're going to say 32. We want this to be 32. So we're going to save that. So now at this point, we can actually bring back in our stars. We're going to go image processing, star processing, and star recomposition. When we go into recomposition here, what you could do, leave everything as the defaults. Again, this is up to you, but it makes it pretty simple for me. And then you go to your background, stretch parameters. And then this one here is going to be what your starless image was. That's what we just altered here, and that's what we just saved. And if you look up at the top here, it says starless results. It's a fit file. You're going to hit open. That's going to put this in our first window. And when it puts it in our first window, it's going to give you a preview of exactly what we just did. Second part of this is going to be your star. So here, we're going to go to our star mask image. And once we're going in our star mask image, you can see it's going to drop the stars in there. And again, once it drops the stars, now you can stretch that out and put back your stars. You can either go full tilt, or if you just like a little bit, again, that's up to your preference. I like to go just a little bit because to me, bringing out the stars kind of takes away sometimes from your actual deep space object. And so I like to just go a little bit. Here's like 2.5. You can see it brings it out, but it doesn't overkill it, right? And then you can even stretch this out a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. So for our case here, now when you do put it back in your stars, you do have the option again to modify this even more, doing symmetry points, highlighting protections, going into the advanced mode. But for our case, we just want to keep it pretty simple. So at this point, we're just going to hit apply. And then once we apply that, we're going to close. And now you actually have a nice final image of where we're at. So we're going to go up at the top here, hit that little drop down arrow. You're going to change this to whatever you want to save that name. We're going to go down here to our TIFF file. And again, you can go to the TIFF file, you can go to BMP, you can go to the JPEG. If you go to your JPEG, you basically can save that, boom, take it right into social media, Facebook, post it, do whatever you want with that. You're done. And then we're just going to hit save. And then here, we're just going to hit save. So there's our image. So basically, we started out from going this here, do an auto stretch here. So this is our unstretched, unmodified image. And now if we hit open again, go to our M45 and hit open, this is our JPEG, and then there you go, there's your finished object. And again, you can tweak this in Photoshop and stuff like that, but other than that, you are done, and you can take it, like I said, right into social media and post it and show everybody what you did. So I hope you actually learned something here. If you got any questions, by all means, let me know. Post comments. I'm learning too, just as I'm doing this as well. So it's not like I know everything about this. Please give it a like. Please subscribe. And thank you for tuning in. Until next time, clear skies.